Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to give you something heavy than before, heavier, I should say. And this is a serious subject, but I want to say it in English instead of in Chinese. Uh, to say it in English, I have several purposes on my mind. First, to encourage you to learn English. And we know anybody from the mainland China. When they come out from mainland China, what they got from the mainland, the English education they had there, is, I call it crippled English or disabled English. They can at most read it in the paper, or of course with a dictionary. And they can hardly speak and they can hardly understand other people. In other words, it's hard for them to communicate with the foreigners. All right, because they have not very good education systems there. And on the other hand, English is a language of a different culture. We call it Indo-European language family, which is much more difficult, different, and mysterious to the Chinese, which be, uh, belongs to the group called Sino-Tibetan language family. All right, there's a vast differences, both in expression, in meaning, in a lot of other subtleties, and because of the culture and cultural differences. So, understandably, it is very hard for them to get across, no matter from which side you go, you will encounter a lot of difficulties. All right. Another purpose I have is to encourage those who started to learn English or already acquired some levels of English can communicate and try to understand the Western culture systematically and not only content with the superficial things like a daily dialogue or can talk to people in daily lives, and but want to know more about the culture of the West, wanting to know why the Western culture is different from the Chinese one, and why we should know more about it in a deeper and more thorough and enlightening aspect. I hope so. Okay, so that's the second purpose. And third one, this topic is one of my interested subjects, and I would like to explore deeper into the field of ideology, especially related to philosophy, culture, and spiritual things, of course. So, this today I started this topic with a few goals on my mind. All right. Another thing I want to stress is that to trace back and the reason I want to talk about this topic is something like this. I always think about the subject. Why the Chinese people, after 200 years, 2 centuries, after the May 4th movement in the 1919, and after the Qing dynasty got overthrown by Sun Yat-sen and established a republic in the Asian countries as the first one in recent history. But today, China is still under the communist the totalitarian regime controlled state. And in foreigners' words, the Western people say that it's a stone age in politics development. All right, Stone Age. It's a very antique. It's old European relic, if you will, and they know it well. All right, over 1,000 years ago, a lot of Europeans experienced this. That's a way of human beings developed or went through, and for every nation on the earth. That's so. But the hard part for the Chinese is that till now, so far, they haven't got the chance to overcome it yet. So my question is, at that time, they tried. I mean, in the 200 years ago, 2 centuries ago, they tried to learn from the West, of course, the science and the democracy. The two ideas, they call it Uncle Science and Uncle uh, Democracy. All right, and but unfortunately, they didn't. And all they learned or acquired is technology, or almost 100% of technology related. In other aspects, even for science, they got very little. They normally don't deal with what a science is. They wanted to know what's practical, what's useful. In other words, what is a tool I can learn, I can acquire, and use it for my purpose. But if you question what's your purpose, they will tell you something from their culture. That is, the 5,000 years of culture. They got a lot of stuff accumulated there. You can be sure of that. And good or bad is another thing. You can have your evaluation. But what's important is they don't want to touch that part. They don't want to change it. That's a bone. They call it the bone of the society. They only want to use Western ideas or technology or whatever, science or arts or whatever they got, they can put their hands on to be useful, to make a practical use. They don't want to learn anything else. All right, so that's a potential problem for them. So till today, they haven't learned the abstract idea of science on the one hand. On the other is the idea of democracy. What is democracy? You ask them, well, we don't care. And as long as we can survive and humanly or unhumanly, as you people will say, well, it doesn't matter. We don't care. All we need is to survive. That's good enough for them. Well, that's exactly the problem. Because the people are imbued in their culture. They don't want to know more about other things, or they are dominated by their culture to think like that and having the habit like that and are used to that, to the idea from their culture. The culture enforces it like a stronghold, holding them together in this culture. It's very hard to break, of course, and it's very hard to see other things. And they compare it to frogs under a well. All right. If you ask the frog on the bottom of the well, how big is the sky? They say it's big as the opening of a well. That's the idea. So the sky is that big because they cannot see anything outside of the well. That's a problem. So that's basically the problem for them. And so when there's some Westerners, one of them famously known as John Li, we call it Li Yuehan, all right? He studied the Chinese technologies and asking himself the question, why does the Chinese not develop science? Why science was not in the blood of Chinese? They are asking this question. And this Western gentleman asked this question mysteriously, and a lot of people cannot give answer. And of course, even in the West, it's the same situation. All right, okay. So I'm thinking about this and trying to answer it, and but after a few tries, I find there is more to it than just superficially about from the Chinese culture. Even if you are outside of it and looking at it from the point of view of the Western culture, you still have a lot of things to convince the people inside that culture to understand it. So this time I'm trying to reverse the process. I'm not going to ask why does the Chinese not develop science? Why does Chinese culture not originate or foster the idea of science? I don't want to go that way. I'm trying to say the other side. Like I heard it's Albert Einstein's words. Rather than think that other cultures don't have the science developed, we would think rather science can develop from the Western culture, which is a unique phenomenon. He said something to that extent. And so that's my idea this time too. I want to trace why the Western culture originated the science. Let science be born from the Western culture. Okay? To put it in a summary, I found in the internet there's this summary. It says, why have Europe and North America produced so many more great artists, scientists, inventors, and thinkers? For example, Shakespeare, Michelangelo, Einstein, Turing, Mozart, Edison, Ford, Galileo, Newton, Darwin, Bach, etc., than the rest of the world combined. All right, okay, so it's a succinct summary of the question. Why the science of the genius all come from the West? That's the basic idea. Let's study what's peculiar or what's different or different characteristics the Western culture have, but other cultures don't. That's the purpose. I hope by exploring this aspect, we can understand, we can see the reason why other cultures don't have the ground, the foundation, or the environment which can produce, can originate science. And partly, probably, if we can solve this problem, we can understand why Chinese, so far, after 200 years of struggling till today, still don't have democracy and don't have a science in general, but only with technology, only having tools instead of guiding principles or guiding ideologies or concepts. Probably, I hope, hopefully, and we can reach this goal. All right. So, to say a few words about this topic, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make it a series of topics. And today, for the first time, I'll talk about the general ideas or the background. and the reason why I explore this topic, and as I mentioned before. And in the following few sessions, I'm talking about majorly 3 points. The first one is the religion. For I talk about that, what the Western religion is, how it is formed, and comparing to the Chinese one or to the other cultures in general. The second thing is I'm going to talk about the freedom. Freedom of what? Freedom of thought, especially, of course. If you have freedom of thought, you can probably have the freedom of action as well. So that is a big topic to talk about. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about philosophy. What the guiding principle or the thinking of philosophy guides the Western society, guides people's concepts and the development from ancient history till today. And if you notice that, you can still see the science or the idea of democracy, the liberal arts part of the concept still going on, right? And in recent half a century, and since the 50s, we have many new things. And you can probably think about the biggest thing is the internet, right? And a lot of other technologies, and I don't need to mention, but the internet, the quantum mechanics, and the Einstein's relativity, the theory of relativity. Actually, that's from the last century, not only the 50s. And that is still going on. The science is accelerating itself, if you can see. And they try to explore the world with new astronomical theory, the Big Bang, and things like that. That's all part of science. All right, the purpose of science from the purpose of technology is the science wants to know why, and the technology wants to be useful, all right, as a supporting or facilitating people's lives and give you convenience, a lot of things like that. I'd say a car, an airplane, the internet, it's all tools. All right, they are not ideas. But when you want to know the Big Bang, that's an idea. If you want to know what's the nature of quantum mechanics, that's an idea too. All right, that's for knowledge, for you to know, to satisfy your curiosity. That's the point. That makes a vast difference from the use of technology. So two aspects, two areas related, but not the same. All right, so that is the idea. All right, so today I'll end here and talk about, in general, the background, the information, why we come to this topic. And next time I'll do the series of topics, as I mentioned, one by one. Hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do. All right. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.